And we are live. Welcome everyone to another mode workshop. Today with a very special partner, Goldsky. Hey Andrew, how are you doing? How's it going?
What's up, Fede? Doing good. Super excited to be here. Yeah, what's up, guys? Andrew from Goldsky. Very excited about the mode ecosystem. This is definitely the hot kid on the block. There's a lot of hype. There's a lot of action going on, and I'm just excited to be a part of it.
What do you do at Goldsky and what is Goldsky? Let's start easy and simple.
Yeah. A little bit about what I do just to kind of dive right in. So, kind of a lot, in the startup world in Web3, we all wear a lot of hats. So, officially, my title is Customer Success Manager. And, what I really want to focus on is making sure I understand what all of our customers and partners are doing, what's important, what are their use cases, what are their pain points, figuring out how do we optimize for the user experience, both for our customers and then also the developers building in the ecosystem, right? So a lot of what I do is honestly learning, trying to figure out how we can help you guys be as successful as possible. And, part of the wearing many hats element that I've been having a lot of fun with is doing a ton of stuff like this, right? Some workshops, AMAs, doing, co-marketing, posting on X, little reply guy action here and there. So it's fun, just kind of get to go around and just engage with the partners and really figure out how do we make the ecosystem grow. Because anybody we work with, if they're growing, if there's a lot of activity on the network, it's a win-win type of situation. So that's basically what I do. And to dive into what Goldsky is, it's a really cool concept because I think in the beginning, what we should really touch on is what even is the importance of indexing on-chain data, right? Because in essence, what we are is we're trying to become the gold standard of indexing on-chain data. We want to be Web3's real-time data platform. So whenever you have network activity on a chain, whether it's an L1 or an L2, typically what you will do if you want to understand what's happening is you'll index it. And for example, if you want to understand the wallet activity, right? Like how many users are on the network or what type of transactions are occurring or anything you really want to understand as far as interacting with smart contracts, the most efficient way to really get that information is to query it. And GraphSQL is basically how it's done, right? So indexing on-chain data. And that's pretty much what our infrastructure is here for, where we have a couple different products and they're really just fine-tuned depending on the use cases that you have in mind, right? So two that I'll highlight that, are just very cool to talk about. We've got subgraphs and we've got mirror. So subgraphs, that's essentially, you can think of it as pulling on-chain data, right? So if you want to query specific information about on-chain activity, subgraphs is how you can query it and customize it. And, we've got webhooks and a ton of different ways that you can fine tune it specifically to figure out and find what it is that you're looking for. Whereas mirror, it's more about pushing data into a database. So if you want to have on-chain activity and, query that and then port it into your database, kind of like a push, that's how you can think of it. So when I really break it down in simple terms, subgraphs are like for pulling the data and mirrors kind of for pushing it. But at the end of the day, it's really cool. We're basically just trying to unlock possibilities for developers to figure out, what type of use cases they want to build out. So whether that's for analytics purposes to, understand what the users in the chain are doing, make leaderboards, point systems, that kind of thing. Or if you want to do some kind of, plugin for a front end or a back end, it's a way to basically make on-chain events so that you can have, like an action-based kind of situation in your app where, let's say, you want a notification to occur if a certain type of transaction happens, or you want someone to have certain access only if their wallet has certain types of assets, right? So it's like you can use on-chain information off-chain by plugging it into your app or into your database and reading it. So it's really cool. I mean, we don't even know what all the use cases are because they haven't even all been discovered yet.
Yeah, something I really appreciate from the Gold Sky team. So you guys have been with us since almost like pretty early. And I always loved your enthusiasm of like getting into the projects and things that we needed to solve related to data. So the not only the subgraph solutions, but also mirror, like it's pretty easy to adapt to almost any use case for what I've seen. And I've seen you guys work with a ton of different projects. and the proactivity of like wanting to get into the problem and try to build a solution for the customer has been like really great. Not chilling, like this is actual reality of like some of your team chasing us. I mean, like, Fede, please, like, tell us like how we can help, you know. We have all of these cool things coming. We're building this, we're building that. We can help you with Mirror. And as you said, it depends a lot on the solution, more centralized, more decentralized, or like on chain, off chain, whatever you need of different types of data, you can, yeah, you can tailor it for yourself. I'm excited to see Javi later on show us how to do that.
Yeah, and you know, you touch on a good point. I mean, Web3, there's a lot of shilling going on for sure, right? It's like people are just shoving their projects in your face, sliding into the DMs, right? I mean, it's gotten so bad people will make their Telegram username, I will not DM you first, right? I mean, that's classic Web3, right? And it's we don't want to do that. You know, we genuinely just want to figure out what are you guys building out? How can we help you do it better, right? It's all just about optimization, making things faster. Because I mean, there's so many different chains, right? There's a lot of competition going around. We kind of just want to come in and help everybody grow because Web3, it's still a small industry. I mean, all of us in here, you know, we're constantly plugged in. We feel like this is our whole world, but in the grand scheme of things, Web3 is still very small. So we all kind of just need to come together and make everything better and more streamlined. So that's really at the core of what we're trying to do at Goldsky, right? Just streamline the developer experience so that everybody building out the apps and the user experiences can do it faster, more efficiently. You know, there's a ton of maintenance involved in indexing on-chain data, and there's just a lot of upkeep, and it can be expensive. And, you know, it takes a whole team, literally our whole team, to manage indexing on-chain data, right? So we just want to take away all those complexities so that teams can just focus on building the user experience that, you know, is going to get the most people using their product and not worry as much about the maintenance of indexing the data.
I had literally this conversation today with one team that they were building uh, their whole infra for this, you know, for data. And I was like, dude, why? I mean, I know maybe you don't fit perfectly with one of the solutions that there's out there, you know, but come on, it's a lot of overhead. There's a lot of cost, engineering cost of like maintaining the infra, and then, you know, making improvements to actually improve all of that and make it more reliable. So yeah, it's important. I think it's an important bridge between what's happening on chain and all the things that we do off chain that react to that. So it's important to have a fast bridge over there, and that's reliable, you know.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, really, it just comes down to just making things as well built as possible. You know, just getting as many people onboarded. That's the goal. You know, getting the next billion users on chain, taking all of money in the world, bringing it on chain. You know, I'm super big on just everything will be on chain. I really believe that. But yeah, and it's super cool seeing what Mode is doing. I mean, the super chain ecosystem, probably my favorite. You know, it's really cool just seeing everything that's happening.
I'm enjoying a lot participating in the whole super chain ecosystem. All the chains coming, you know, Cyber now, I don't know, Sora, Base, all the different chains that we have around Metal. There's a lot coming more, and I'm interested to see like what happens there. And we're gonna need a lot of data as well. I want you to explain because you usually have a really easy to understand explanation for what Mirror is. I know you covered it a bit, but I think it's such a simple concept, but it's really useful. You know, when I found out about it, I was like, oh, nice. This is really useful to a lot of the apps that we can use to pick up, like, you know, like for front ends and for campaigns, as you said, even for running your own points campaign that could be easily managed. So, like, what is Mirror and how does it work?
Yeah, no, it's super cool. It's something that we really started pushing a lot this year, and it's one of those things where, you know, it optimizes for real-time data, right? So basically, when it comes to Mirror, what's happening here is you're creating a pipeline that streams data, and what that data movement looks like. You pick a source and you pick a destination, right? So source, that can be something like a subgraph where, let's say you want to figure out ERC20 token transfers and you just want to have insights and index that on-chain data. So you can choose a data source, you know, in Goldsky in the app and make that your source. So we'll say ERC like token transfers, right? And then you basically pick a destination, which we call a sink. Now the sink, this is the really powerful part. You can choose basically of whatever we support, whether it's like ClickHouse, SQS, Postgres, whatever database that your team is already building on, and wherever you already have a lot of your backend, a lot of your queries that you already do to analyze, your platform. You just basically take this on-chain data that you query and specifically customize to fit your needs, and you just put it into your existing infrastructure. So what's really cool about Mirror is it essentially allows you to take on-chain data and plug it into your existing setup that you have without even having to change it up. So then that way you can all in one place. Let's say you want to query off-chain data and indexed on-chain data and internal analytics all in one spot, because you can. It's all in your database. So really, it's just the whole point of it is to just simplify analyzing on-chain activities. But it's not just analysis, right? Like if you have your app plugged into your database, you now can make app-based events that are related to on-chain activities, because you can push that into your database. So there's so many ways that we can dive into it. And Javi, who's our solutions engineer, this guy's a legend. He's about to hop on. You guys are in for quite a treat. He's going to show you what Mirror looks like and really give you the full rundown of what you can expect. But it's a very powerful tool. It's fast, it's efficient, and it's cool seeing what everyone's building with it. So I'm excited for you guys to see what Javi's got in store.
I really want to meet Javi. Javi, you can start getting ready because we're going to get some nice examples from Javi in just a few minutes. Andrew, thank you so much. Is there anything else you want to add here? I know Javi will give us a technical overview of a few things that you've been mentioning. I can vouch for, like, we've been working for quite a while. I can say to the community listening to this that Andrew bothers me every week saying, "Hey, Fred, do you need something? Can we help you with something else? Can we get on a call and explore more things? How can we help you?" So it's really great customer success. It's been really, really nice working with you. And yeah, are you excited by any activations? DevCon is coming. Any hackathons, any activities like that Goldsky is participating in? Because we've done a few hackathons and stuff before. Anything coming up that you can mention?
Yeah, well, one just that's coming up, we were just talking about this earlier. We've got DevCon next month. Super excited to be coming out there. So if any of you builders, devs are going to be in Thailand next month, definitely try and find us, because we're trying to meet as many of you as possible. At the end of the day, what I love about this industry, we all just enjoy talking about Web3, nerding out on crypto, meeting each other, right? So I love talking to people. I love meeting everyone in this industry. So yeah, if you're at DevCon, if you're at any conferences, find us, let's chat, and reach out to us online too. We're always happy to talk. So definitely looking forward to meeting you all.
I'll be there. So let's meet, and yeah, maybe we can make a live workshop from Bangkok. That could be cool as well, or an interview, something like that.
We
Yeah,
can teach people, how to eat the great food and drinks and have drinks in Thailand, right? We'll just show them how it's done.
I would love a workshop on that. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, how to make cocktails and then index data on the side.
Love it. Javi, all good to hop in? Are we ready? Great.
Yeah, all good.
Andrew,
Yeah, all
I'm
good.
bringing Javi in. There we go.
Hey,
Hey, Javi.
Sup,
how's it
Andrew,
going,
thank you
guys?
so much. We're going to leave it for Javi right now. Really, thank you for your answers and
Sounds
thank you
good.
for being here. And see
See
you
you
in the
guys.
next one. See ya.
Okay, sweet. Yeah. So can I start sharing the screen? Huh? I think I can.
Yes, Javi. The
Okay.
question is, Javi, first. Hola, Javi.
Yeah.
What do you do at Goldsky before we start? Just
Yes. So my name is Javier. I've been at Gold Sky for around a year already. Yeah. My role is solutions engineer. So what I like to do is I like to get the word out about our product positioning and value props. I also support clients into integrating Gold Sky. So that comes with solution design, but also just like low level support. And so yeah, I'm also like to do these presentations just to demonstrate what the technology is capable of.
awesome. Perfect. You're the right guy to do it then.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for this. You can start sharing your screen if you want. And thank you very much for waking up really early. I know it's getting late here. I know it's really early for you, so thank you very much.
No
Appreciate
worries.
that.
Cool. Okay, sweet. I'll share let's do share screen over here.
Yes. Let's
All
see.
right. Mm-mm. Okay, cool. Can you see my screen? I'll hide
And
this.
we can now, yes.
Okay,
Perfect.
perfect. Yeah. All right, so we're gonna be talking about indexing and streaming mode data with Goldsky. And yeah, basically, I'm gonna be touching upon everything that Andrew and you have been discussing so far, but just in a little bit more detail. So again, this is me, solutions engineer at Goldsky. Here's my contact details. Fede, I'll share with you this deck in case you want to share it across the community. There will be some useful links in it in case people want to kind of reproduce the demo that I'm going to go through today.
Yeah, awesome.
Cool. So what we're gonna be covering, I'm gonna be again talking about subgraphs and mirror, but I want you to kind of give you a little bit more perspective into why these technologies came to be and why they are so useful. So we're gonna be talking about the beginnings of on-chain data retrieval, then how subgraphs and indexing relate to each other, and how mirror comes into the picture. We're going to be doing some Goldsky instant subgraphs, which is a pretty cool way for you to deploy subgraphs with no code. And then at the end, there will be some time for Q&A in case there is any questions from the community. Okay, cool. So why indexing is important, right? So if you think about it, blockchains are a continuously growing list of records. And so reading data from the blockchain historically, why it was actually quite inefficient because it consisted of on a very reactive way of getting that data in, which was basically people were doing ETH RPC calls directly onto their own contract addresses, and every time that they needed to get data, they will just make a call to the blockchain. And so we did a simple example doing this approach here to display like a collection of 20 NFTs. And what we found out is that this took you around 41 network requests and up to 10 seconds to display, right? So it's a very inefficient way to do it this way because this reactive approach puts a huge load on the client and also on the nodes of the blockchain as they need to serve each requests. And then ultimately, this way of doing things is just like not scalable because the client has to decode all the data, and it can't really handle more complex queries. Like in this case, just a simple collection of 20 NFTs, which is pretty basic, right? Took so long. Imagine if you have to display a full blown app application. So as a result of it, indexing came as a natural solution, right? So what's indexing, right? You can think about indexing to be, the ability to create a separate database, which is parallel to the blockchain, which basically scrapes the data from the blockchain that you are interested in, and then stores in a way that is a lot more convenient for you to work with, because it's going to be the data there is going to be structured and it's going to be decoded, so you can just query it anytime without having to bother, asking the blockchain itself. So it's a lot more efficient when it comes to data management and data retrieval, because now you can basically scale that data layer without affecting the blockchain at all. And here's when subgraphs come into the picture, right? Because there are multiple indexing technologies available, but by far subgraphs today are the most used ones nowadays. And so how subgraphs pretty much work, getting a little bit into the inner workings of it, is that they will scrape the data that you're interested into. So you will, as a user, as a developer, you will create a subgraphs, and you will say like, okay, so I'm interested in getting data from, for example, from the events of this contract. You will deploy the subgraph to an indexer, and then the indexer will start scraping the data according to the logic defined in the subgraph, and then it will take that data and store it in its own PostgreSQL database. And then at the same time, it will expose a GraphQL endpoint for you, so you can very easily query that information without having to worry about managing any of the infrastructure. So, when you have an indexer provider like Goldsky, you don't have to worry about the, hosting the database or the GraphQL endpoints at all. We just do that for you. So all you need to care about is what data you are interested into, create the subgraphs, deploy onto the network, and immediately you will have a GraphQL endpoint to get that information. So within Goldsky subgraphs in specific, we are fully compatible with the graph, because for some of you who may be a little bit more familiar with subgraphs, and you will know that It's a technology originally developed by the Graph, but it's open source. So we took it and we basically improved it in several ways, right? We have made it a lot better in terms of the query performance. We've added reliability. We've also added support in terms of SLAs, etc. Plus, we've also added features on top of it to make the developer experience a lot better. And so one of these features is what we call instant subgraphs, which is what we're going to be talking about now, which allow you to basically deploy subgraphs with no code. We can also deploy webhooks on it, tags, which are great for versioning, as we'll see in a second later. We can also add load balancing between RPC nodes, etc. And so that's going to be basically what we're going to be looking into now for the demo. All right. So
Can I
yeah,
interrupt you 1 second? Can you go back?
yeah.
One
Let's
little
go.
question. What are instant subgraphs?
Yeah, exactly. So this is something I'm going to be demoing now. But
Oh,
essentially, when
nice.
you
No, then all yours. Then I want to watch it. I didn't know you were gonna talk about that, but
okay,
yeah.
okay, yeah. But just to give you a kind of if we had longer time, I would have been able to show you guys in more detail, like what it takes to develop a subgraph when you just like use standard tools, right? And so basically, you have to create a scaffolding project. It will end up with having a ton of files. Then you will need to compile the code. There are a few
Mhm.
steps that you need to do to deal with the code of the subgraph. What instant subgraphs solves is essentially that development process. So what that means is that you don't have to be an expert on developing subgraphs at all. In this case, using Goldsky instant subgraphs, you just basically provide a very simple config file and an ABI file on the contracts that you're interested in indexing, and then the CLI will build the corresponding code for you and deploy into the platform. So this is a great way, and I've seen this a lot in when I talk to customers that they want to get the data, but maybe they don't have the resources in house to develop subgraphs. So they really like this feature actually. So I'm going to show you that in a second.
Awesome. Thank
Yeah,
you.
for sure. Yeah. So the example here that I took, I went into into the mode scan, and I found out mode to be pretty much, I think it was the second most popular token. So we can be indexing mode as an example. Let me see if I can switch screens here in a simpler way. And okay, maybe not. Well, I can do this. Cool. So this is going to be the token we're going to be indexing using instant subgraphs. And so all we're going to need in this case is going to be the address of the token, the network slag, which is basically something we can find here. If you go to Goldsky docs, and then we go to chains and supported networks, you can see all the networks we support for indexing. And we search for mode. You can see here we support mode and mode testnet. And so they have their corresponding slag. And you're going to need this slag whenever you want to deploy a subgraph. It's basically a way for the indexer to know to which network it has to point to script the data. And so let's go back into it. What do we need to basically deploy instant subgraphs, right? All we need to have is basically the Goldsky CLI. And then we also need to, once we have the CLI, we need to log into our project with an API key. And I can show you that how it's done, which is actually rather simple. If you start off from scratch, you can basically go here, go to goldsky.com, and then go to dashboard. And then you can basically sign up with an email address. You don't have to put in a credit card. You will be able to start an account basically with our free trial, which allows you to deploy up to 3 subgraphs on one pipeline, which for this example is more than enough. Once you have that, you're going to end up having a pretty similar view to this one, which is the one that I have over here. And so here you're going to have, this is your project. You won't have any subgraphs deployed yet. So you will want to go to settings and then go to new API key. And then basically you can create a new API key here, and it's going to give you a string, which is basically the API key itself. Now you can go onto your editor. And then here, essentially considering you already have the the Goldsky CLI installed, you will want to do Goldsky login, and then input the API key here. So that way the CLI will be pointing to the correct project. All right, so I already have this set up. Now, as I said before, we want to be doing, indexing that token, right? The mode token. So we got the info there from the Explorer. One more piece of info you will want to have is the ABI, right? So I already did this. I already copied the ABI here on my local file. I just put it in a folder called ABIs, and I have here the mode JSON ABI. We don't have to get into the ABI in detail. I just want to say that this is an ERC20 ABI, so you can expect, any ERC20 ABI is going to function here for this example. Now, with this information clear, we can start off deploying the subgraph, right? With no code, as I said before. So to do that, you will want to do Goldsky subgraph init. And this is going to start a little wizard, which is going to walk us through the steps to create and deploy the subgraph. So the first thing that we need is we want a subgraph name, right? So in this case, I'm going to call it something like mode token, for instance. Every subgraph has a version. This is very important because we're going to be talking about tags later and versioning. As you can expect, just like with any software product, you will want to create different versions of the same subgraph as you change the logic in it. So yeah, we can start off with the one, for example. You can choose any version for you. So this is gonna choose. It's gonna tell us what will be the target path where to create the subgraph. Let's just choose the default option over here. Now we need to tell the wizard where the ABI lives. So in my case, this lives in the ABIs folder. Do we want to add another ABI? Not really. Now the contract address, we can get this again from the Explorer. So let's do that here. This will be the contract address. The network, as we saw before, that was mode mainnet. And then we can choose a start block. The start block, we can, for example, take the token creation block, or you can take any block that you're interested into. Maybe for this specific case, we can see from the block explorer, which is very convenient, that this contract was deployed at this transaction, which is in this block. So I might as well just copy it and put it here. Do we want to add another network? No, we're only doing mode mainnet for now. For the contract name, we're gonna call this mode. Do we want to add another contract? No, we're good. So now this is gonna create the instance subgraph for mode. Okay, let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger. Cool. Okay, now that we are one last step that we want to define here is if we want to enable call handlers. And so basically, just to give you some perspective, usually by default, the subgraph is going to focus on creating or let's say indexing the events that are created by the contract itself. So if we go back here into the actual token, we can see that there's a bunch of transactions and logs created. For those of you who are not familiar with logs and events, basically contracts can define events in it. And every time that these are called, they will create a log, right? So a very common log when it comes to ERC20 contracts is the transfer event, right? Which is right here, which happens whenever there's a transfer of this token. So by default, we're going to be doing those. We're going to be indexing those events. But at the same time, if you want, we can also index the call handlers. So this means that whenever there is a function call on that contract, we can also index that and save it in our little PostgreSQL database. So, and we can also query that information. So it really depends on what you're looking for. In my case, I'm just going to be focused on the events of the contract. So I'm just going to say no. Okay, so
Javi,
now, yeah.
I have one little question before you go on. What happens in that case with data decoding, for example? Can you guys read the contracts usually? Can you follow like regular standards? What happens if it's a new contract, for example? Yeah.
Good question. Yeah. Well, basically, let's say the decoding comes. This is why it's so important to have the ABI. So the ABI is basically a way to translate what's encoded in the blockchain as a way that we can understand, and ultimately is reflected as what we can read here, like transfer events, right? So the ABI does the decoding for us. That's the important component here for a successful
Yeah,
indexing.
perfect. With the contract address and the ABI, you know exactly which methods are called, their parameters, events, etc.
Exactly, yeah.
Great.
So that's why very important. The two most important things here, well, I would say three things very important. That will be the ABI for the decoding part, the contract, and the network slug. So the indexer knows where to scrape the data from.
Perfect. Keep
Mm,
going. Thank you.
cool. For sure, yeah. All right. So now that we have, the data, this is now the wizard is telling us, okay, I'm gonna create this subgraph with this information. Do we want to initialize this? Let's just say yes. Now it's gonna give us the option. Do we want to filter the events or calls for the contract? By default, is we're gonna index all the events. That's what the indexer is going to do by default. If you want, you can filter on a specific events, but I'm just gonna say yes. Let's actually get all the events. Why not? So let me see here. I'm just gonna do. I liked, for example, just gonna say approval. Interesting. Maybe delegate, but these are the events created and then transfer. So let's just get these three, for example. Cool. Do we want any calls? We don't really want calls here, so I can guess we can just like say transfer, for example. Yep. Cool. Now we can go and build a subgraph. So this is gonna build a subgraph for us. And again, if there we go. Now the subgraph has been built, and now we can go and deploy it. So as you see here, the development of subgraphs is revolves around three main components, right? It's going to be the config, where we say, hey, indexer, go and fetch information from this contract. Then there will be the building part, and then finally there will be the deployment. If you were to do this using standard tools, you will be compiling and creating the code generation data and the building process yourself. Here is a lot more convenient because, as you saw, we just had to click yes, 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 and then we are pretty much done. So now here, if we go to the dashboard, to this link over here, we can see that now in my project, I'm gonna have this token being basically exposed over here. So now the indexing process starts, and what you see here is essentially this is the subgraph detail page. And so I want to walk you through the basics of what's involved here. It will give you some information about the status process. So at the moment is indexing 0, and it will start getting all the way here to edge eventually. You can see here some metrics around the subgraph, like the amount of entities that have been stored. And entities is basically, in this case, the events that have been stored. You can see here what else we have. Webhooks. We have also the entities that will get saved, and some of the logs that will be convenient for us to do some debugging. Cool. Now, if we go into let's just go here. If we go to transfers, over here we're going to be seeing the information that we can query. And so if one thing I like to do is on the left hand side in the menu here, you have this pretty convenient way to create the queries that you can basically do on the subgraph, right? Because the subgraph has a database that we talked about before, and then here you can basically construct those queries in a very convenient way. So if you click on one of the entities here, you can see that I can build a query for transfers, for example. And in this case, it will give me information about transfers, which is from ID timestamp and 2. So that would be an example of it. Okay. Maybe one thing that I mentioned before, I think I want to have to redeploy this, by the way. Let me just do thing. Cool. Now, one thing that you see is that the editor, so this thing here did something for us on our behalf, right? And so at the beginning, I had the ABI's folder only, and now I have a mode token folder created. So this mode token folder is basically the the instant subgraph configuration files that the wizard created for us. So if I go ahead and do the following and open this app on my code editor, let's just see here. Okay, cool. Let me make this a little bit bigger. All right. So now the code editor created basically this configuration file for us. And so what you see here, there we go. I'm going to walk you through the basics of instance subgraphs, which is basically very simple. You have the name of the subgraph right here, a version, which will always be 1. Then you have the ABI. This ABI has been copied from our original ABI. And then over here, we have what's called instances, right? Which is basically the contracts that we're tracking. So in this case, it's only 1, right? So all the info that we put it in the wizard is now available here. And what this allows us to do is allows us to work with the code of the subgraph a little bit with the configuration in case we want to deploy a newer version. So one thing that I've noticed here is that I made a little mistake, and I enabled call handlers by pressing yes before on the filtering events and call methods. So one thing I'm going to do now, I'm going to call this, I don't want call handlers anymore. We just want the events. So I'm going to make a little change over here, and I'm going to redeploy the subgraph with a newer version. And so to do that, I'm going to open up a new terminal here, and I'm going to hit the command Goldsky subgraph deploy. Let's just say the name of this subgraph. This is going to be called mode token. So I'm just going to call it mode token 2. And then from ABI on the config JSON mode. Let's just see here. 1 second. Yeah, okay. Mode token JSON. Cool. I think this is gonna have to work. 1 second. Maybe I think it's gonna be more convenient if I just cd into it. ls cd. Okay, cool. Let's just do it here. Mode token JSON. Cool. All right. So what I'm doing now here, it's basically creating a second version of the same subgraph just to fix a little thing.
Perfect. So this is if anyone makes a change in their subgraph and they need to redeploy in actual to make it work, right?
Yeah, essentially, I think that while I was presenting this before, I made the mistake of saying that I wanted to index call events, calls, but I don't want calls. So I was looking into this debug logs you see here, and I see that it's trying to get data that is not defined. So now this is just an example, which an improvised example of how you can create a newer version of your subgraph, which is now live here, right? So if we now go to subgraphs, you will see that I have 2 versions of it. The one which is not working and the one which is now indexing. So now, again, we go over here to this page, and then we go to the GraphQL link endpoint. And now, unlike here, which is hitting that issue and not giving me any data, if we run the same query in this one, we're going to see data, which basically, basically is something that, of course, we can match on the mode scan. Let's see.
You can, there we go. I was going to tell you to use another one. It's the same. There we go.
Exactly. Perfect. Yeah. So this is gonna ultimately this is gonna reflect as a transaction over here. So and this is something that I wanted to talk about in a second. This is like because people ask like, what are the use cases for subgraphs? There's a ton of it, and one of them is actually explorers. And the explorers, most of them uses subgraph in the background for it. Cool. So that's gonna be the basics of subgraphs for now. You can see here a lot more cool metrics. Something I wanted to touch upon is, something which I really like as well is that you can define webhooks. So whenever an entity of the subgraph, for example, a new transfer is added by the scraper of the subgraph, if you want to get that information out to your own systems, you can get and define an HTTP endpoint, and we'll send that information over to you.
That is Super useful. One that we have one question in the chat. That since you're in the dashboard now, maybe important. Two things. We got some people saying hi and sending love in the community. Just wanna
Love
make
it.
a shout out there. Yeah. And then Wolfsito asks, could you let me know if there's any service, if any of these services have any cost, and if you guys have a free tier that I can try for me to try it out. Developers
Definitely,
love
yeah.
free tiers. Yeah.
That's a great question. Yeah, as I said before, you can go here. You can go to Goldsky, um, goldsky.com, and then create a new account, sign up, with just with an email address, and yeah, you will have a free tier, which allows you to deploy up to 3 subgraphs and 1 pipeline, and you don't have to put on any credit card at all. So it's a great way
Nice.
for you to get started for sure.
Great. Thank you very much, Javi. I'll let you continue.
For sure, yeah, cool. Okay, let me get back into the. I mean, there are many cool things that I could be talking about forever, but I think I'm just aware of the time. That was just an example of how to deploy subgraphs with no code. And I have some links in this deck, which if you can share around, I think people will find it super useful because there is a lot more things that you can do there. Like in this case, we only index the transfer events, but you can go and do a lot more cool things with these instant subgraphs. um, some of the use cases for subgraphs, I think, like, honestly, any Web3 application probably uses subgraphs in one way or the other, especially on the front end side. So subgraphs can power, from DeFi when it comes to protocol dashboards, rewards, incentives, NFTs,
I got a question
gaming.
for you.
Yeah,
I got one, a spicy one, maybe. Not spicy, but I want to know. Okay, so there's a lot of APIs, what they call like NFT APIs or like Web3 APIs, where you can get data from an API really easy. Why should a developer, or why not, or when should I set my own subgraph to index some type of contract or whatever instead of using an NFT API from some provider or something?
yeah, gotcha. Good point. I think that will probably be. There are many factors involved here, right? But maybe pricing can be an important factor to consider. I think in most
Okay.
cases, subgraphs will probably be cheaper because those NFT APIs, those providers do the data retrieval for you, and all the data cleansing for you, and probably they do something like subgraphs or some sort of ETL job on your behalf, so you can get that information over in a much cleaner and easier way. Also, I think like subgraphs today are kind of the de facto technology. So you will see that if you learn how to work with subgraphs, you can immediately benefit from the community, because there is a ton of public subgraphs out there, and people like to copy, modify them a little bit, and deploy them. Just like we see this a lot with the Uniswaps of the ecosystem. Many
Yeah.
like many of them, basically their protocols are just many copies of the publicly available subgraphs from Uniswap. um, and then also at the same time, just like people like to work with GraphQL sometimes, if they come from working in other Web3 projects, chances are that they have been doing subgraphs in the past, and they know how to build their applications around the data retrieval on GraphQL.
That is a very comprehensive answer, and
Mm.
I agree. Yeah. APIs could be great for like something very quick, a small project or something like that. But once you really need to get like specific data, very reliable, and you start scaling, I've found issues with them quite a lot of times. Probably they're better now, but yeah. If you're going to be a power user and indexing a lot of data and doing things with even slightly changed contracts and stuff like that, probably you have to go down the subgraph route.
Yeah, and this is a great, kind of a great entry to my last point here. Like, I would say, like, the main advantage of subgraphs, right? As I said before, instant API endpoint to query on-chain data, and I think it works great, honestly, for very very specific, specific use cases where the developer or your team is used to working with subgraph technology in a way. Now, what happens really when your application grows and then you start like meeting up, or you have to address more complex data requirements, which this always happens. If your application is successful and you start growing, you will see that you're gonna have to face more data requirements that are a bit more complex, right? And so
This
an
was
example
not
could be
scripted, literally. This was not scripted. I love it.
no,
So
exactly.
you're gonna talk about scalability. I fell into the trap, dude. That was perfect. The iceberg. Yeah, I love this. Yeah, keep going.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's just like it's a natural conversation, right? I mean, like the thing with you mentioned scalability, right? And yes, like you can scale these subgraphs, or maybe I think the most important point that I want you guys to take home is subgraphs are great, as I said before, very convenient, easy to work, a great community around subgraphs for development. The thing is that if you think about it, the data that you're getting, it's always going to be limited to that GraphQL endpoint. And so if you need to meet the more complex data requirements, like think about, for example, very, very fast fuzzy search, or maybe like some sort of analytics, the real world use cases, analytics, or aggregations, for example. Like when you have those requirements, the GraphQL endpoint is going to fall short. And also, if you have a ton of, you need really low latency, and you have a lot of requests, you either have to rely on a very, very great indexer, or maybe you have to make things in a different way. So, soon after, you want to realize that the GraphQL endpoint layer is just not going to scale enough to meet those complex use cases. And so this is when we decided to create a mirror, basically. So mirror, what we do is that we allow you to bypass the let's say the limitations of that infrastructure, so that we can stream the data real time onto your own data warehouse. And so the idea here is that you're not constrained by that API endpoint, but instead you can get the data yourself. You can collocate it in your own data warehouse according to your needs, and then you can basically stream it into the technology of choice. So if your use case demands real fast analytics, then you, for example, may want to put that data into ClickHouse. Or if you want to create a REST API instead of a GraphQL API for the clients, then you can you can stream the data into Postgres and then build an API on top of it. So basically here the opportunities are limitless, right? Because now you own the data. And it's not only that, this is something that Andrew touched upon before. Maybe you want to combine on-chain data with off-chain data, which is a very common use case that we're seeing more and more. You can do so by basically joining all that the aggregation data into the same pipeline. So this is a very, very, very powerful tool. And I'm help you. I can show you a little bit of it. I think we have some time, right, Fede? Maybe I have like 5 more minutes.
Bro, you have all the time. If it's interesting, you have all the time in the world. Come on. I
Okay,
love
okay,
it.
sweet. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
we
perfect.
have at least 12 minutes, but yeah, you can keep going a little bit.
Okay,
I
sweet.
want to
Yeah.
see.
Well, I can keep on going talking about subgraph. I guess I'm really excited about talking about mirrors. So maybe, yeah. I
Yeah.
just want to say, like, it's a very powerful tool. It's just like one thing I really like to do to mention about mirror is that if you're thinking about maybe having some sort of multi-chain app, very powerful, right? In the sense that you can combine, if you have your contract deployed in multiple chains, for example, you can get information for all those chains, aggregate them, and then send them into your own data warehouse. And you can do things like very cool analytics to see the correlation on your application across different environments. That's a very cool use case. We also see applications that really need really, really low latency. Those are a lot better to do with Mirror, because Mirror will, as soon as the block is created, we will stream that block and all the information to you in real time onto your own database. So yeah, let me show you a quick example as the last exercise about Mirror. So the idea here is, if we go back here to the app, well, we can see here that our subgraph is now indexing. The question is, how do we create these pipelines, right? And I think that Andrew, you touched upon this before. When you define a pipeline, most important things are You want to define a source of the pipeline. Optionally, you may define what we call transforms in case you want to transform the data in real time across the pipeline. So, for example, if you are indexing logs from a chain and then you want to filter on a specific contract address, you can do so. And then ultimately, you need to define a sink. And the sink is basically the destination database where the data will be written. In my case here, I could, for example, define as the source both the subgraph that I just deployed on mode, or maybe I just go directly and get direct indexing datasets from mode. So if I go here, for example, let's look at that case. If I go to direct indexing, and then I go to, let's just say here, let's just filter from mode over here, I can see that they have a bunch of readily available data sets that I can make use of. We have the basics raw data sets, as you can see here, and we also have what we call curated data sets. So these are data sets that the Goldsky team curates for you so that you can easily deploy. So for example, we have also ERC20s, ERC721, 1155 transfers data sets. So I can just choose, for example, 721. I can go ahead and hit create pipeline. Before I do that, I can see also the shape of the data. I can see some example data over here. So in this case, I can go ahead and hit create pipeline, and this is going to walk me through another wizard, just like the one in the CLI. But it's going to help me to create and deploy this pipeline. So some basic attributes that we need to input: a name for the pipeline, the resource size, which is the amount of compute that we want to put in the pipeline. The more you put on, the faster it goes, but also the more expensive it is. And then here, I'm just going to choose the default options. One thing you may notice is that here on the right side, I have this YAML file, and this is because pipelines are officially defined using YAML files. So you can either work on the CLI, work on the UI with this editor, or work directly with the YAML file and deploy from here. This UI is helping me to create the YAML file, basically. So I have here the source defined. And then last point, I can choose the sink, right? The sink, as I said before, is the destination of the data. We can choose among a few sinks that we have defined over here. In order for me to deploy or stream the data securely into a sink, I need to define what's called a secret. And the secret encapsulates the credentials to that database. So in my demo account, I have these for ClickHouse and Postgres. I can choose this secret. This secret talks to my Neon DB over here. This is NeonDB, for those of you who are not familiar, is basically a Postgres on the cloud, very easy Postgres to use. So I can stream the data into this Postgres instance and just click next and then deploy pipeline. Okay, cool. So now what is happening here? And by the way, I want to call out the fact that I've decided to do this on the UI, but I could have perfectly done this in the CLI if I wanted to, just like we did before. But yeah, so here what we can do is we can see, in the background, we are now setting up the right resources to create the pipeline. In the meantime, I can show you that we have some metrics here, like the records that we received and the records that will be written into my database. We have some info about the source and the sinks. Here's the configuration of the pipeline in case you want to take this file and edit it locally and deploy it again. And then you'll see some logs here. One thing I like to do when this is running is I like to go to the CLI and do, let's see here, I do Goldsky pipeline monitor and the name of my pipeline. And this is going to give me some real-time information about the runtime of the pipe. So basically, we can see here that this is now starting. So, and then very immediately, this is going to start writing records on the DB. So I did this test just before the call, just to show you another example. In my test, I essentially chose, ERC20s. So this is the test I ran before. So you can see the data being streamed here. And now you see that the pipeline just created the table for ERC20 721, and the data is already being written in there as well. So this is now streaming data in real time from Goldsky, as you can see here. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. I don't know if Fede, if you have any Any questions? I had just had to go through this a little bit faster because we are on the top of the hour. But as you can imagine, there is a lot of power in these tools, which we could talk about for hours, basically.
No, I love it, and I love the enthusiasm. That was a very fast and easy connection between like two or three different, systems and stuff. One, I love the monitoring. I really like that. Seems like a pro tip, and having a console running all the time there. Not only is great to see the progress, but also to justify having another monitor. So I can have three monitors in one with that console, over here. Love
Yeah,
that. And one of my question would be on this, which I love it, right? I have my own app, my web app. I have my database. Now I can connect mirror to it and just get live stream data in there. If I need to transform data somehow, if there's a field that I need to, apply some type of transformation, adjust the data a little bit so I don't get it raw. How would you recommend doing that? Are there any tools to help with that? Yeah.
yeah. That's a great question. Yeah, so basically we have well, like I'll show you, just what you could get to do. Basically, we have some examples here about, some, for example, the code contract events. So let's look into this one. What you can see here, pretty similar YAML file as before. Here we took the transforms and we added some transformations on top of it. Basically, these transformations is SQL code that you can write to shape the data differently. In this example case, what we're doing is that we are providing an ABI which is stored on the block explorer, and then we are taking the ABI and we are combining it with the raw logs in order for us to be able to identify the basically the transfer events for this contract. So you can do the coding on the fly, basically with the ABI, similar to what we were doing with subgraphs. And this is just an example. You can run very, very more complex, SQL transformations over here. One thing that I like to call out here as well, which I think is super cool, is before you were limited to do transformations only in SQL in that file, and we just released what we call external handlers. So basically, with the external handlers, we as the pipeline runs, we send you the information onto an endpoint that you host, and then you can do the transformations on your own endpoint and give us the data back onto the pipeline. So what this means is that you can do the transformations on any type of programming languages that you are familiar with and you like the most. So you're not restricted to SQL anymore.
Dude, I didn't know you had this. That is pretty cool. I was actually just thinking about, oh, right, we get the raw data. I knew about the SQL in the config file, but this is super cool. So like, if there's something weird that I need to, dude, I don't know why, but we gotta take the ID of the transaction and perform all of these weird operations, and then we get a hash of something, and we want to store that, not just. Then you can do that. You can build your own API, get the value from the pipeline, give that value back on whatever that looks like after the transformation, and that's what you're getting, right?
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
pretty sick. Nice.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm very excited about this. I mean, let's say that you're a Python developer and you don't really know about SQL that much. You could create a Lambda and have the transformation in Python code in there, and that gets the data, transforms it, and sends it back to the pipeline, and ultimately that will be reflected in your database in a nice way.
Oh, yeah, love it.
Mm.
Awesome. Where you were perfectly on time for being like this word. I love it. I think we gave a ton of information and a lot of examples. I know there's so much more to show on like special things and tweaks and little details that we can go through. Maybe we can leave that for another workshop. Super
Definitely,
happy
yeah.
to host you. Yeah, for sure. Like you're always more than welcome. Is
Hmm.
there anything you want to add from Mirror, from Gold Sky, something else?
Well, I was just gonna say, I'll send you, I'll share this with you in a second, and then
Yeah,
there's a feedback link in it. And yeah, I would definitely love if people want to provide feedback on, what could be better done, but also more importantly, if there was a section here that they would like to dig into in more detail. We can basically do, for example, a full session on subgraphs or full session on mirror use
yeah,
cases, whatever the community finds more valuable. Because this was like, we touch upon many things, as you mentioned.
yeah.
But if people want to zoom in on something, we can definitely create another session for that.
So send me the link now so I can post it as a comment in
Yeah,
YouTube and also in
cool.
the
Let
X
me
chat. Yeah,
stop.
yeah, no worries. I'm not showing your screen now, so
Okay,
no
cool. Yeah.
worries. Yeah, send me those links so I can post it in the comments and they can leave there. We'll for sure add it in the description as well. Here we go. Perfect. Let me open this.
Let me
Oh,
make this 1 second. Let me make this restricted publicly available. There
yeah,
we
yeah,
go.
public.
Here, this is the one you want to have. This second one. Cool.
Nice. Perfect. Awesome. Okay, I'll get this. And now you can see it, guys, in the comments. It's a cool link. And do you want to share the form as well for people to
Yeah, that's
um,
that's in there. Also in the last
in the
slide.
presentation in the last slide? Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, and the very last one, there is. I also added some links and resources for people to to understand things even better. That refers to our docs and some of our blog, which I think is pretty good.
Awesome. So you guys have that as a resource to follow the workshop and as a guide to the forum. So please, if you have any recommendations, any feedback, go fill it in. If you wanna contact the Goldsky team or the Mo team, you know where to find us. We can help you connect. And one last question that I always make, Javier, if any builders need to contact you, the Goldsky team, if they're struggling with the documentation, if they're having any problems or whatever they want to ask you, where can they find you and how can they do that?
Yeah, that's in the. I think that's in the second slide. That's my contact details. I think the support email is in there as well. And my Telegram.
Awesome, awesome. So everything is in the resource. Go to the chat, check the link, and you have all your resources there. This was great, Javi. Thank you very much, Andrew. I know you're still hearing and learning the background, so thank you for staying. Thank you both for being here, and Gold Sky for being the amazing data partner that you guys are. This was great. I learned a lot. So thank you, Javi.
Yeah, thank you a lot. I'm very excited about Mode. Really, I think you guys are doing great for
Honestly,
sure.
we just released the governance, and I'm interested to see how that develops and how it looks like when people start voting. So yeah, that's going to be interesting. Thank you, sir. Well, thank you very much, and see you in the next one, everyone. Bye bye.
Thank you.